Good afternoon, everyone. I hope we're live. I'll give it a couple seconds just in case. You know, it is 2020. You can't trust anything this year. I think we're live now.
Yeah.
So, I wanted to thank everyone who's taking the time to be with us today. We're giving here another update on the state of real estate as we move into the fall season. I am Katy, Mackenzie, and I am a mortgage broker with TMG The Mortgage Group. And we have with us also again Bronwyn Bertles of the Next Door Group under the Engel and Völkers banner. For everyone who hasn't joined us before for our real estate updates, we've been mainly focusing this year, obviously, with how real estate has pivoted in the wake of COVID and the pandemic. And Bronwyn and I can both attest to the fact that the market has been far from normal in the last 3 months. So we wanted to take a little bit of time today to give you an update as it relates to the mortgage side and the realtor side, and give you an opportunity as well to ask any questions you might have. So with that, I'll hand it over to Bronwyn to start.
Hi. Yeah. Well, welcome everybody. Thanks for taking time away from everyone's busy schedules. And we're happy to be here to give you a little bit of insight, but then also to be a resource that you can reach out to if you do have any specific questions. But generally speaking, I'll talk to two things. One, of course, how are we dealing still with COVID? And then the second thing is what is really happening in the market. So, number one, we are seeing from our last update, we were not doing open houses. So, those have been now back open. We're seeing a lot of realtors and a lot of different brokerages pivot and do those open houses a little bit differently. So, one of the things that I would advise clients on is firstly, it's always up to the seller and realtor discretion and their comfort level in regards to having an open house or having showings. We always follow, seller's guidance first. It is their home, their safe space. The second thing is that with the open houses opening back up, we are noticing most realtors following on the guidelines of, one group at a time. A lot of people aren't actually doing open houses. They're doing open houses by appointment, meaning you need to make a 15-minute incremental appointment, and then allowing those people to come in. A lot of people are doing the social tracing. That's one of the things we're definitely doing, is getting everyone's number that comes through and contact information. And then we're asking for gloves, masks, hand sanitizer. And then the three kind of standard questions are: do you feel sick? Have you been traveling outside of Canada? And have you been in contact with anyone with COVID? So definitely, although we've opened up, we do know that BC has been getting hit with a lot more cases. So we are remaining really cautious. And I guess I can't speak to everybody, but I can speak to me and my team. We haven't been doing a lot of open houses, but when we are, they're very cautiously being done. I will say that if you are someone that wants to go look at an open house, I almost recommend just calling your realtor and doing a private showing. You won't have to wait. You'll have the time that works for you with your schedule. Plus, you'll know that you'll have the privacy and time in the listing. So if you are one of those people, and we've noticed a lot of them out there currently, the buyers that are like, hey, I might want to get into the market, I might want to start talking about it, it's really important to engage with the realtor. And just, it's not a waste of their time. It's great for them to come out and learn about new product, and it's good to come out and see some stuff in real life. So that's what I would recommend in terms of like the COVID safe and how to proceed if you are a buyer in the market right now. In regards to the market itself, so the news out there has been, oh my gosh, we're so busy, so positive, and I don't like to be a little bit of a bearer of bad news, but I think that the stats are a little bit skewed. So the stats are skewed for two reasons. One, we had basically a dead spring, right? And so we have in real estate, there's always going to be the natural movement of people, plus some changes with COVID. So we had a real push of everybody that would have bought in the spring now got pushed to kind of the summer months. And so that increased a lot of our normal summer habits. Normally, Vancouver is very slow in August. Everyone's out enjoying all that BC can offer. And so a lot of the stats then for our August were pulled from previous Augusts, which last August was very slow. And typically on the 10-year average, it is slow as well. So we're getting sort of a little bit of a skewed stat in terms of how busy it's actually been in comparison to, say, August of 2019, which was really slow. With that being said, stuff is still moving. It's just we still have the low interest rates, which Katy can talk to, but it's just meaning that it's not a we're still seeing average days on market up over 25 days. And we are definitely noticing that things need to be priced right. And there's definitely micro areas that are really busy, and then certain pockets that are very slow right now.
I was going to ask you about that, as well as the technology to view a property online prior to booking to go see on a private open house. But I notice with our clientele, there are certain pockets where properties are listed and they are not moving, they are not selling. Even though I know for myself personally, it's busier than I've ever seen it. But then there are these little pockets of locations or price point, or perhaps it's sizing of properties. You know, the one bedrooms are not as attractive as the two bedroom townhome, larger homes, people wanting more space.
Yeah, the I would definitely say that there are it's quite uh there's just real specific pockets that are busy and specific pockets that aren't. So we did see, and we've seen this kind of trend um across most global cities, which is a little bit of a move out of the city to get more space, land, backyard, etc. As a lot of people, a high percentage of people in Vancouver are living in condo. But I do think that over time, those condos will come back. And we are seeing a little bit of the opposite too, where some people are saying, I'd like a pied a terre. I'd like to have something in the city because even if I'm going to spend some time out of the city, I do want to have the convenience and that opportunity within. So we're definitely seeing a movement. I know a big thing is if anybody, like, I think the biggest thing is that if anybody has ever thought in their back of the mind, I've always wanted to move to Victoria. I've always wanted to go up to the Sunshine Coast. We're seeing a lot of plans sort of expedited. And I think that's both in relationships. So people that had just met might be fast forwarding the relationship real quick because they spent 3 months alone with this person. The other way, where if a relationship wasn't in the best space, this may be like pushing forward the breakup of it. But we're just seeing a lot of people really reevaluate what it's important to them and where they're going. And so that's why, although it is important to know, most markets right now, like statistically, are balanced in terms of we're not quite in a seller's, we're not in a buyer's market. We have a lot of balance right now. I think that you should always relate back to what is your plan? What do you need? Where can you go? Buying real estate shouldn't be a trendy thing. It should be a pillar in your financial plan. And it should, be something that isn't going to be market condition oriented. You do have to recognize and respect that, but it's not the only factor towards buying or selling at the moment.
Yeah, I'd agree, where we're seeing clients who have been sort of waiting to maybe retire, maybe make that move, maybe buy that retirement home, that cabin on the water, and finally just saying, you know what, this year's proven to me, I just need to go. I just need to activate what I'd like to do. So
Yeah, definitely the retirement thing. I've had an active buyer in the kind of the kits area, and every time where are these people going? Oh, they're retiring. They're off we go. So we're seeing a lot of certain things, and then of course all of the kind of COVID babies. So I
mhm.
think that's something I've noticed. My clients are, oh, we're pregnant, and so now we need more space. So real estate is always going to be natural flow of life. um and so yeah, it's just interesting to see some of that speed up.
if I can go back to talking about the virtual open to what do you say,
Okay.
virtual open house tours. So what you're doing on the technology side, and if you think that will continue, if things go back to sort of a normal where we can do regular opens, will you be continuing to maintain the technology and that visibility through the online tour?
Yeah, I think it's really important. For a couple reasons, it's still way safer for the agent, for the seller, for any from like a theft crime aspect. Having something virtual is awesome. So I hope that that remains. I know that there's now links through Facebook, Instagram, even Zillow is an awesome resource to do online open houses where you can kind of at least get a good sense. We still see the virtual tour and the Matterports being important because you can literally walk through the property, look around, look up, look down, and I do think a city like Vancouver will still attract a global market. So with what's going on down in the States, I've definitely heard a lot more Americans maybe not being able to physically come up here, or if they do need to quarantine for 2 weeks. But getting the ball rolling on, hey, I'd love to have that Canadian property, or I do want to come back to Canada. So I think we're going to see, that's a huge factor with an international crowd or an international buyer.
I
Yeah, I
know
hope it stays.
several owners of properties in the US waiting to see what happens during the election to decide what they're going to do long term with their property holdings down there, too.
Yeah, well, it'll be really interesting to see. It's so hard to forecast.
I
It-
know that's what I keep saying. There's too many variables at play. Normally there's two or three, so you can kind of understand where the market might go. But right now, it's a myriad of things occurring. So
Yeah, it's definitely like day to day for sure. That is one of the things that we like as a team do a lot is we discuss almost daily what's happening, what are our buyers feeling, how much interest is getting. So because it's changing so quickly, just like the numbers of COVID and what businesses are doing. So we like to really stay or pride ourselves on being up to date on what buyers or sellers are feeling in the moment.
hmm
Yeah.
awesome.
But I will say, just dealing with this morning, it is so important to have a mortgage broker on your side. The banks, just everything seems to be delayed and very, I want to say, nitpicky. And I've come into contact with two really really rushed hard deals that probably would have been alleviated with the mortgage broker. So, I mean, I'm sure you're going to speak to that, but everyone needs to talk to a mortgage broker. I think, Katie, but get a mortgage broker.
Well, that's a great lead in, because yes, that was on one of the things I wanted to talk about. So I can continue on unless there's anything else that you wanted to add.
Nope,
For
that's
right
good.
now, no. Okay, so yeah, let me talk to that sort of bank failure. Um, I worked at the bank for 15 and a half years. I was that 20-year-old sitting across from the client, not knowing what I was doing. So I can't slam them, but I can talk about the stories of where they dropped the ball. We've had several scenarios with bank branches. So this isn't mortgage brokers with the specific bank lenders or
Advisor.
any one specific bank, let's say. It's happening across the board because on the mortgage side, it has been non-stop. So, with COVID, it started with the payment deferrals and questions and people losing jobs and concerns about closing on existing contracts. So I mean, it's been nonstop for us, for the all of 2020. It's been an extraordinary year trying to help people. But what we're finding is that people are being misled or even lied to. We have had some bank employees admit that they have basically just given the clients a number to shop with because they sort of guessed that's what it would be, let them go shop because they think, well, why am I going to take my time dealing with this client if they're not actually going to get an offer for 2 weeks, 2 months, a year from now. But the problem is, because it is so busy, these clients can have an offer in 2 days, and then the purchase price that they've been given is actually not correct, and a list a mile long of document requests are then asked for. So here's where the main difference between broker and bank comes in. Right up front, we will be asking for an entire list of documents. And yes, it's going to feel nitpicky. It's going to feel invasive. It is going to be long. But because of COVID, they are asking for additional documentation on everything: pay stubs, job letters, confirmations of deposit if you have tenancies, tenancy agreements, 2 years tax returns to confirm the consistency of those rental agreements or rental income, 90 days deposit history for down payment. They are calling on gift letters, job letters. So if it can reasonably be asked for, it's being asked for. And the reason is that the incidents of mortgage fraud have increased. So what occurs is I'll ask for a client for all of these documents up front. Anything that I know from my experience of lending that the lender's going to ask for. And sometimes the response is, we've just met or we've just been introduced. Why are you asking for all of these documents up front? And I can give these examples to them to say, here's an example of where a client was given, $800,000 to shop at, and their actual amount is only $600,000. This typically occurs a lot with those who are self-employed, because you make more. You do. Your gross amount is more. But if you're saying, oh, I make $100,000 a year, and the banker uses that, and your net income on your tax returns is only 50, well, we can only work off of the 50 or some add backs or gross ups, depending on the lender. So what I would say is, if you're working with someone at the bank that you trust, and they don't ask you for any documents, do not be misled that this is you being treated like a VIP. This is actually you being treated with zero customer service. You should have all of your documents provided up front, and a consistent daily contact of what's going on, where the file's at, what documents are complete, and what are still needed, all the way through till subject removal. And then after subject removal, continuing on, ensuring that you get all the other pieces in play, that the lawyer has been instructed, that they have set a date for signing, so there's no other delays, right? So I know for me, I handhold the process the whole way through, because I don't want the ball to be dropped by anyone else. So I hold it the whole way through to make sure. A bank employee is not going to do this. They are not paying for the privilege to work with you like a broker does, right? We are independent and objective. So our advice is with your true interests at heart. So
It's sort of like, to interrupt, from my experience with Katy, is like a concierge type service, right? Where you don't need to go press the button to the elevator. She's there to do that for you. She knows what's coming up and what you need next. And so I found this to be like very helpful with clients, to make sure that there's no extra stresses at the 11th hour.
I mean, I talk about it in a lot of my marketing. It's like, we reduce stress, and it's true. It's perhaps the largest purchase you'll ever make, shy of a business, and you should not be at the helm. We're centered around you, but you should not be in the driver's seat. The rest of the people helping you should be, and then they'll say, get in the car now. We need you in the car now. And then when we don't need you, get out, look at the view, have a nice day, deal with your work. We're at work right now. So
And I do want to say, like you mentioned earlier, like, it's not a plug on that the banks are bad or out there to, and it's not about them trying to screw something up.
yeah.
It's just, it gets lost in the shuffle sometimes.
Well, and the bank employee has other mandates other than just the mortgage piece, right? They have cross-sell mandates, so bank accounts, credit cards, lines of credit. And so they have other mandates. So they only have, in an hour meeting or call with you, they only have 10 minutes to talk about the mortgage. How is that even possibly advice when you're buying something, in the city of Vancouver, proper one bedroom is over, $500,000-$600,000 to start for something that's actually livable. So it deserves more time, and there are people who have that time. So again, if you have someone that you like, know, and trust, and they're on the ball, that's who you should use. But just ask them, what's it like right now? Are you too busy? Will you be available when I need you? What do the timelines look like? Which is also what I wanted to talk about, is timelines. So things are taking longer than ever before, because even through the broker channel, the underwriters are swamped. We have had all-time high volumes. So what would normally take sometimes 2 to 3 hours to get a document back, or a file underwritten and back to us, is taking up to 2 or 3 days just to have the I guess the underwriting review and then the conditions. Then we have to send all the documents after that, and that can also take another 48 hours. So where we would normally look to have 5 business days to closing, it's taking 10 business days to closing. So if someone's coming in with an all cash offer, they don't have to put a subject to financing. They're going to be in a better position than you are, where you're looking for subjects to financing. So all we say is as much prep as you can do. If I'm asking for 10 documents, get me the 10 documents, because if there is any hurdle for us to jump through, we can do that in advance and make it easier when you are in that time crunch. And let me tell you, everyone says to me, geez, like, I can't even focus on my work right now. All I'm thinking about is doing all these things. And it's like, well, that's why we get most of this in advance. But sometimes taking a day off during that process, just to give yourself a bit of breathing room, is also advised. So then there's 2 other things, or I guess 3 other things I'll talk to quickly as we continue on documentation. If you are a non-resident, so you may be Canadian citizen but living abroad, the lenders will require that you're signing with your lawyer or notary on Canadian soil. So that might mean arriving in Canada, quarantining for 2 weeks before you can sign your documents with the lawyer. So you just have to factor that in the time frame when you are making an offer. And then exceptions to the rule. So for those of us that have been in the lending world for a long time, so I've been lending come October for 21 years. And it used to be really easy. If something made sense and you wrote the story around why the lender should do the file, and it was reasonable, it was done. Today, if it doesn't fit the box, they are not doing it. We've seen a few exceptions done, but it has to be the strongest file possible. So good credit, good income, the property has to be good, and then maybe just something a little to the outside, but it's 50-50. It's what we say is no to the exception, but we'll ask, we'll see if we can get it done, but not to expect it. What was done and approved last year on exception, no problem. We always knew what we could ask for, is not getting done this year. And then the last one to talk about, which is probably the biggest piece, but everyone knows this, is rates are at historical lows. So, I just tell everybody it's 2% and below right now. We've had more lenders decrease their rates today. The benchmark rate, or the stress test rate, the rate at which we actually qualify you, has come down because of COVID as well, because obviously then prime lending rate came down, fixed rates came down. So they had to reduce this stress test rate. It is still at a very high rate. So right now it's at 4.79. So you're qualifying at 2.79 or greater above your actual mortgage interest rate. So it is still there to protect and ensure that you are able to afford that mortgage come renewal, but it is a wide margin. So if you're doing any online calculators saying, this is no problem, I can afford this, yes, you can afford it, but can we get you approved for it? So your own personal cash flow versus what the lenders look at and will approve are 2 totally different scenarios. So we're seeing a lot more co-signers, but rates are super low. So if you've been waiting to do something or looking to refinance, absolutely the time to do that. We have to be careful around looking at what interest penalties are if you're looking to break the term and pay that penalty, because they can change day to day unless they're a fixed variable 3-month interest penalty. So those are the main things. And I think the reoccurring theme throughout the year is just how quickly things are changing. So I know we've seen things change overnight in real estate in previous years. This year, we've seen them change almost instantaneously. If we get an update about a rate change or a policy change, it's effective immediately, and there's little to no time to do anything. So if you're not already within an accepted offer or mortgage commitment, whatever that product was that you were looking to get into could be gone tomorrow. So, if you're sitting on the fence, get in. Well, you can before something else changes. So those are my major updates. We'll post this. Well, we're live to Facebook now, but as we post it up on YouTube, there might be some other change by the time it goes up. But I mean, as I say in every video, it's like, have a good team on your side, reach out with the questions. There is no stupid question. I know that's a cliche statement, but I get asked the same questions almost every day, which means that people aren't getting answers to these questions and that you are going to have the same questions. So ask them. We don't mind. I feel like it's worse if you don't, and then something comes up later down the road and you realize what you were striving for is actually not available. So
Yeah, I agree. There's no silly question, and the questions um are it's complicated a lot of the times. Like it's sometimes not like a black and white answer. So it is important to just make sure that you're working with someone that you know, like, trust, and maybe has some experience behind them too, like your 21 years.
yeah. I started when I was 5,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. Well, I don't have anything else for today. We didn't want to keep people very long today. Just give you some snippets. And if you had any questions, of course, both of us are available for you to reach out to. Bronwyn, did you have anything else you wanted to add before we sign off?
Yeah, I just think there's some great opportunities out there right now. So if you are an on the fence, or if you do want someone to give you a personalized evaluation, um, and a realistic one, that would be, get on it, because low rates, you're probably going to need somewhere to be for the winter, and even probably for the next year and a half. So it's nice to be in your own home where you can do some renos, paint, make it your own space, while the future in the world seems a little uncertain.
Awesome. Well,
Yeah.
thank you for everyone for joining us. All of our contact information is everywhere. Bronwyn Bertles, she's, I think, the only one in the city. So easy to find on social or at the Next Door group with Engel and Völkers. And you're probably watching live from one of my social media channels. So you have all my contact info anyhow. So thank you again. And we'll come to you live again soon. Bye for now.
Thanks, Katy.